Hi, welcome back to the Market Made channel. Today I'm going to be discussing how to refurbish and DIY a spice rack organizer and how to include it into your home and kitchen decor. So Jeff's had this spice rack for over a decade and he really wanted to buy a new one because it's old. We don't use a lot of the spices that are on it, but I told him no, because it works just fine. I really thought that I could refurbish it and make it more of a decor piece. It was pretty ugly, it had a black base and then just like silver tops to it and glass canisters, so it was pretty plain. And even though we didn't use a lot of the spices on the rack, I thought, hey, I can just relabel everything to include the spices we actually do use and then get rid of and eliminate the ones that we don't, because some of them were still in the packaging. So in this video, I'll show you how I took this piece from an old and unappealing spice rack organizer to a staple in the kitchen decor that I'm planning. So let's get to it. First, you want to pick out your color scheme for your kitchen, obviously, but also what you want to use for the spice rack. So I personally tried to keep with my accent color for what I was going to turn my spice rack into. So my accent color is a sea foam, but everything else is like a gray and white palette with gold hardware pieces. And then the towels, my spice rack, and some glassware is more of that aqua glassware. So that's how I'm incorporating the seafoam color scheme into it. Also, if you're interested in learning more about functional design home decor pieces, or if you want some ideas on how to include everyday items into your home decor, I'll attach a link below so that way you can follow my channel a little bit, but hopefully it'll also inspire you to use more functional pieces versus buying something that's just pretty and you can't really use. The spice rack, I touch on a little bit later in the video. It is a little much, but I think you really could do a lot with a spice rack if you really like neutral colors. I was even thinking about spray painting the base white and then doing like a champagne gold for the lids and then keeping the white canisters. But I really wanted to add a personal like lettering touch. The big thing is you want to pick your colors, and I usually say you want to incorporate at least one neutral color. So my neutral color is going to be white, and that's what I'm spray painting the glass canisters with, and then the rest is going to be sort of the seafoam green accent color. If you are spray painting it, I always want like a backup for a neutral color just in case I'm like, oh, I really do not like having a seafoam green obscene piece in my kitchen. To make sure that it's not overwhelming, usually do like a tan, a white, a black, something more basic, and then incorporate the lids or the base glass canisters or vice versa into the color palette just to spruce it up a little bit, but it's completely up to you and like how you want to design. The next step is pretty important. You want to empty everything out and clean it thoroughly. I had to clean my lids, I had to clean the base once. I had to clean the lids with a Clorox wipe, one of the heavy duty ones, to really get the old grime off of it. And the glass canisters, I actually had to really scrub it and clean those thoroughly. I actually cleaned them twice. But you want to make sure you get all of the insides out, and you want to try to remove the old labels if you can. If you can't remove the old labels and you're planning on keeping those labels, don't worry about it. But if you are planning on changing them, when you spray paint over them, it should cover it up for the most part. But for the spices, if you're planning on keeping some of them, what I did for a couple of them that I wanted to keep, I put them in mini glass mason jars and Ziploc bags. Those seem to help me organize it pretty well. The rest, I just dump it all into a bag just because some of them, like I said, we haven't used ever, and they've been in there for a decade. They're probably pretty gross. And then next, I spray painted the base and the lids because I was pretty sure about what I was doing for that. The other steps are a little bit more time consuming, but I was like, okay, I want the base to be lighter and I want the lids to be just a touch darker but in the same tone. So the base is actually a pastel ocean mist, and then the lids, I wanted to keep it more metallic, so I grabbed this like pearly metallic, I think it's called sea mist or robin's egg, something like that, but similar, just a touch darker. I did have to spray paint the base and the lids 2 or 3 times. I think the base I did 3 times, and the lids, I did that 3 times too. Yeah, Yeah, because you want to really make sure you get them thorough. And with the, depending on the shape of the lid, you'll see mine, it's like a cap and then has some ridges, and it was really hard to spray paint in those ridges. And you want to make sure you're not spray painting underneath them. So I had this like old calendar that we're never going to use from 2018. That was like a gift from one of our trips. And I wanted it flat, and the tarp isn't flat enough to ensure that it's not going to get up in the lids. I put it on an old calendar. You can use a piece of paper, newspaper, but something it can really lay flatter on versus like a tarp. I really had to get next to the lids to get in those little grooves, but it really just depends on the shape of your lids for your spice rack organizer. What I did next was actually select my spices. I knew there was like probably 6 that I didn't want to use anymore. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to incorporate? So it was like coriander, something like that. Marjoram? I can't remember. I don't know. There was like 5 or 6. So instead I did like garlic salt, garlic powder, onion powder, cayenne, 1 or 2 others, ones that we use more often. So I always buy these like wholesale big ones, and then I'll fill up a smaller one. So I thought that'd be perfect. I would hide the big ones in the cupboards, and then the nice pretty spice rack organizer will be on display and easy access. Perfect. Hey, so side note, keep in mind you are going to have some blemishes because you are doing this by hand. It's going to happen, so don't worry about it. Like I've scratched a couple, you can sort of see there above that C. Some of the paint is peeled off and chipped. You know, honestly, who cares? You're doing it yourself. It's not going to be perfect, but it's still going to be pretty. So a few blemishes, no biggie. Once you select your spices, you're gonna have to pick out what you're going to do for lettering. So I have a Cricut vinyl machine, and what I do is basically design my lettering or whatever I'm going to cut out with my Cricut machine. I design it on my Google Drive under Google Drawings, and I download it as a PNG, and then I export it to the Cricut machine to cut out my vinyl. So that's how I did it, and then I just did transfer tape and then transferred my cutout lettering to the actual glass canisters. However, I have seen stickers in the past with spice labels on them, so you might be able to find something like that. I think I saw them at Joann's or Hobby Lobby or Michael's, where you can just get alphabetical stickers and then just sort of create your own. That might be a little bit more difficult, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure something out. What I did to ensure that the spray paint didn't get in the canisters, I taped off the top of them. So what I did was I taped off around the edge of where the screw on cap goes to make sure that it doesn't get like sticky and doesn't mess up the seal. And then I put another piece of tape over the top of it. You basically want to ensure that there's no spray paint that'll get on the screw top part or inside of it. So that's where you want to tape off. After everything's taped off and ready to go, you're going to spray paint everything. I spray painted my spices 3 times because it was really hard to get 360 like an even coat. After my second time, I thought it was a good coat, and I brought them in to take off the labels, but I noticed some of them had splotches. Once you let that dry thoroughly, I would say probably wait a full 24 hours to 48 to peel off your vinyl or your stickers. Otherwise, if it's not fully dried or adhered to the glass, it might pull away from it. Make sure it's thoroughly dry. Read the instructions on your spray paint to make sure it has the best seal possible, because you don't want to like mess up the project. I did it with one of mine, and of course it was the one I'm going to use the most, which is pepper. Go figure. The infamous pepper. It also has a crack. I decided to do double negative equals a positive, right? It gives it character. So what I use to peel off the vinyl lettering or stickers is this little guy. My mom actually ended up getting this for me as a present because I was getting into like designing my own mugs, which I still do, so you can check out my Etsy page. But yeah, so this is great. However, I have stabbed myself a couple times, so be careful. And then also you want to be careful because what I did with the pepper is I scratched, when I was trying to get it off, I actually scratched the piece, and then I tried to spray paint it, but then I touched it, and then now it's all like messy looking. Once you've peeled off all your lettering and everything's ready to go and dried, you're going to fill everything up and put it back together, and then you should have a pretty good piece, and I'll show you what mine looks like. that was how to refurbish an old spice rack organizer to make it a staple of your kitchen decor. If you like this content, remember to subscribe to the Market Made channel. If you thought this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you want me to discuss any other topics, remember to comment below. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.